Welcome. You are listening to the Class of Hope and Change, ClassofHC.com, SoundCloud.com/ClassofHC, Twitter, ClassofHC, Instagram, ClassofHC. What was, what is, and what will be. Let's go to work. I am your host, Dave G. Glad to have you listening to this podcast, Class of Hope and Change. This is episode number 2. Today we're talking with Phil. Today we're talking with Phillip, and glad to have Phil with us. Phil, thanks for joining us here on the Class of Hope and Change.
Thank you. Hey, how you doing, Davey?
It's good to hear from you. Good to talk to you. So, Phil, we'll just get right to it. And one of the things that we like to do at the beginning of our conversations is give people a sense of where our guests are coming from. And so we'll start at the beginning, as they say. Phil, where are you from, and where are you currently, and how do you spend your days?
Yes, well, I'm from Chicago, the west side of the beautiful Chicago. And right now I live in St. Paul, Minnesota, about 8 hours north from Chicago. And I spend my beautiful days on Earth with my family, 3 boys, 1 girl, and a beautiful wife. I spend it as a family man, just making sure I keep my family intact and taking care of bills and making sure I'm an asset to my community.
Yes, sir. If you had to give, and this is one of the questions we're asking to give people a sense also of where people are coming from. So when you graduate from high school or middle school, there's usually people do the voting. We call them superlatives, but most likely to, least likely to. And one of the questions I like to ask everybody, just to get a different way of understanding where people are coming from, is if you had to give a most likely to your life right now, how would you describe it? Phil is most likely to what?
Oh, yes. I am most likely to do currently right now just focusing on my crafts and learning more about my history and how I can really be empowered to stay focused and just try to stay away from the distractions in this current world with technology and social media, and just focusing on my craft with photography. My aspirations is to be documentaries with testimonies. So just focusing on my craft in church and just gaining testimonies and making sure I'm continually just reach the chain of an American dream, doing better than I was last year.
That's good. Has it changed? If as you look back to what you're most likely to was, 7 years ago, back in 2007, or when you graduated from high school, do you think that working on crafts and history and photography and trying to develop, some artistic and new avenues, do you think that that's changed, or would that be the same most likely that we would have heard from Phil at 18, graduated from high school?
Oh, absolutely not. That's absolutely not. Yeah, it has changed. 7 years ago, 8 years ago, I still was a positive guy. I was really into deep poetry. I had aspirations in writing a book and being a spoken word artist. However, just with trials and tribulations, right now I'm just really interested in doing photography to really give other people a voice. I see the power with social media, that something can become viral, whether it's entertaining, whether it's conscious or not conscious. But if a person is believable and it can attract people, the human life still has a soul to it.
Yeah.
The human voice still has a soul to it, so people are attracted to realness, to things that they can identify with. So with my poetry that I was really interested in when I was a kid, I hated my black experience in the west side of Chicago, to see obviously drugs, poverty, welfare, bombs, you name it. I've seen it all, and I used to write about it. and it had an effect on me to not want to be there, but also speak out against it. And now I can use that, learning about Black history and how people navigated and how people were voices and structures for people to stand together to move forward and, create change. I believe with my photography and gaining people's testimony in a documentary form, it can attract people's attention to focus on things that matter, build a better community, because we need community. Everyone's on our phones or on social media, and we're losing that touch with each other with all these distractions and all these forms of communication and entertainment. And each year something new. It's a new fad. It's a new this,
right? And
everything costs money, but time is money. So we need to come together as a community, because time is changing, and it seems like the clock is ticking. Not saying at the end of the world, but that's the value of life. And we need to come together to continue valuing our lives. So whatever these new distractions come, it won't break us apart. Because the new, I don't want to say the new America, but the new generation that's beneath us, we're not being fed in our community the way that they're not being fed the way that we were fed in our schools, in our community, at our stores, even on TV, So we have to have a sense that we have to reach them, and music is not the same. When I was a kid, it was rap, but the rap is different nowadays.
Right. I hear the old man voice coming out of you now. That's that crazy, you crazy kids and that crazy hip hop you're listening to, and turn that racket off.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's. I feel like that's the birthright of everybody. Shout out to everybody 25 and older. You get to a certain age, you earn the right to talk stuff about other people's music. So I don't even run from that. I feel like I'm grown. I pay my taxes. I'm gonna talk about your music if I want to. But everybody, we all pass through that. I know. I still remember people waving their hands at whatever craziness was on the radio when I was in high school. But it's interesting to hear you talk about community, and I think that transitions well to helping us to get a sense of the community that you occupy. So I've been asking people to describe their world, and one of the ways that I've been asking people to talk about that is, who, to the point about community, whether it's social media community, whether it's the real world community, who do you follow? Who are the most important people that you are paying attention to in this various communities of your life?
Yes. Well, I'm not really. I do use. Obviously, I'm involved in social media, Facebook, whatever, what have you. So I follow no one in particular. Great. I follow my wife. Follow a few friends, catch up. That's kind of the purpose of Facebook, is for catch up with people you kind of fell out of touch with. But for people that I'm following with, I need to be on top of what's going on in the world, what's going on in the community, what's going on in different cities. And like in this climate right now with the value of life, whether it's civil rights, human rights, with Black Lives Matter, it's a new narrative now from our side, from the side that that I'm more conscious with, that I can relate to. And then there's the other side that's saying, no, all lives matter, and black on black crime, and black lives versus Black Lives Matter. And so I listen to a lot of talk radio. I do. I listen to, some people, with them, some people kind of question it, but I do listen to Al Sharpton. That's getting a perspective. It is not really what he's saying, it's what his callers are saying, rather it's being, planters of people want to push their narrative. But I still I want that conversation. At least I want to be aware of it. Because if you're not aware of the conversation, that can hinder you. Information is power. Obviously, so much information is hidden in books that's, put in libraries, or, information is hidden away on the internet. If we're not aware about it, how can we create change? How can we teach our children? How can we be an asset in our community? How can we tell these kids who, had their parents hanging off their butts, or who doesn't think they need to vote? It's so much. We need to have the facts. We need to be believable. We need to have that passion in us to communicate to them why, you should do it. We need to be aware of the communication, because there's always another side to it. It's always a different ideology. It's always a different game on the other side that they're planning. So if we can at least be aware of it, that will not affect us, and also it will not affect the people that we can be a part of. So who we have a connection to. So I listen to people in Chicago, WV 1690 WVON. Obviously, I read articles, CNN, MSN. Sometimes I catch Fox. I want to see what their narrative is. So that's people I follow, stations I follow. I follow, I go to, I'm a member at Christ and Bible Apostolic Church, so, I'm under the Word, so it's kind of under the Word, listening to what my pastor preaches about and seeing. It's kind of funny to get on that topic. In the civil rights, we had a lot of pastors that were like for the civil rights, for Martin Luther King,
right.
And then some pastors, they were not for it. They didn't want. They were Martin Luther King and others. They were called troublemakers. They were called troublemakers and race baiters and et cetera, et cetera. And it's kind of interesting. The same thing's happening today. Of kind of the thing, history is repeating itself. So if you're not aware of the conversation, how can you be aware of what's happening? How can you be involved? What side can you be on? Because if you don't stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. Right. So I don't want to be in that position. I want to have a choice.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. And I think I've been thinking a lot about that in these past 4 months. And that's part of the reason I think this project is so powerful, because there is a way in which, just because you have gray hair, you get to say, oh, I was rocking with Dr. King, and there are a bunch of people, like you said, who were either not with him or turning up at the club, but we don't know that because now everybody looks old and mature and, wise. And so everybody gets to sort of tell their own story, whether or not it was actually the way it was. But to that point, I think I'm always interested in one of the things that was beautiful about that period of time was that there was something you could be there. So being someone, either organizing with, SCLC or SNCC or Black Panthers or all these other people, students on campus who were trying to start, various cultural studies programs and gender study programs, things of that nature. So do you feel like in this moment is that happening for the young people, for people your age, for friends of yours? Is being someone who's socially aware and socially engaged, is that a thing, or is that just something that the majority of people still aren't really paying attention to? And if you do it, you do it, but most people aren't paying attention. Is it, are we in a 60s moment or are we not? I think I feel like a lot of sometimes, older people want to jump in, and we hope, oh, this is just like the 60s. Is it, you're a young person. Do you feel it from your friends?
That's a good question, Deji. That's a good question. I'm gonna have to write the question down to continue asking myself that.
We give good questions away.
It's a good question. I don't believe it. No, it depends on who you ask. First of all, you speaking to. I don't live in the epicenter of what's going on right now in the country. It's a small portion in Minneapolis. You obviously have New York, you have Ferguson, you have Chicago. Obviously, you have New York, California. I think some things happen in LA. With different social groups. In their groups that's happening, and the media is different from the 60s. A lot of the media is probably $1 billion industry, right. Where the focus is different. The focus is swayed. So what you see on TV, you're really not seeing it on the news now. So when I was in the gas station, I think I was listening to. It was a talk radio show. I think I forgot the name, but they were talking about just recently a Republican, I think ranked 3, Scalise. He was found that he attended a white supremacist group in 2002 to speak. He didn't know about it. But it's kind of interesting, that's on the news, and you would hear something, you hear ripples through the waves of the media. But again, when I was in the gas station, it was a woman, and she had children, and I wanted to engage in the conversation with her, but I don't want to say the look of it, but just visibly, it's just not there. the contact is not there. The awareness is just not there.
Right.
And it's similar to the '60s where people just, you know, you have the people on the side that's involved, and have other people. Well, it's three sides: people that's involved, there's people that's aware of it, that's not being involved, but are equipped and are ready to get in. That's kind of like they want to be tagged in and they want it to be requested. But then you also have that party who is aware, but that's out of the conversation. You know, it could be social, it can be financial status, obviously class, and they don't know. They're not even aware. Again, is that conversation of what's going on? Because I remember, you know, I was at Sears Kmart, and this woman wanted to purchase a PS4. And I remember, like, recently, obviously, it was Sony leaks. They were hacked, but
Right.
the revealing of so many emails of what they had to say about, you know, African Americans, disrespecting the president, with someone they said about the guy, there shouldn't be a black bond, and just kind of some of the structure of what they were saying, and just, you know, the pattern of what they were saying, and like some of these emails is consistent with it's racism. And I'm not going to support a company like that that's not going to stand for that. That's not going to stand against it. That's not going to speak out for it. Then you kind of look at the opportunity that they're giving people of color, you know, or from recent movies or their shows and stuff like that. You put two and two together. I know a lot of this is going on in Fortune 500 companies. But again, I don't want to put my dollars with them anymore. And I had that conversation with the woman, and she listened to me. Oh, well, I have to research. I didn't hear anything about this. I didn't hear anything about it. But great. But she still went ahead and bought it.
Right.
So that's my point. You know, it's people that's not aware of it, but they really, you know, whatever. It's, you know, they don't have an attachment to it. You know,
Right.
it's the fighters that's on the ground, like yourself, like Black Lives Matter, just, you know, even like some older civil rights movements that's going on. And there's people that's, you know, aware of it, that's trying to tell people about it, that's trying to do something, but, you know, it's hard. It's hard, and it is a little discouraging. You know, you hear hip hop, you don't hear too many artists say anything. You hear artists say one thing, you hear sports players make a stand, but it has to be consistency. And I know, you know, dollar does speak.
Well, I
so
think
it's something that has to change enough.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to say that, because I think one of the things that that I'm always interested in is, you know, for all the connectedness of this current moment that we're in, and we've been in for the past couple of years, and everyone's ability, and in some ways, right, everyone's ability to project a message, whether we use that message to, you know, make status claims on Instagram, or, you know, try to get the craziest, you know, joke or whatever that gets retweeted. But everyone sort of has the platform, and yet somehow the conversation always comes back to what are famous entertainers doing, right? And I think that's interesting. One of the things it's interesting to hear you talk about, Phil, is that, you know, you get to a point where you can look at a Sony leak situation and connect it to the product in a store that you might be purchasing. Mm-hmm. And that's a certain kind of awareness. And you talk about you know, there are other adults who have children who, you know, are tax-paying citizens and go to work every day and, you know, cook and clean, who somehow didn't get to that space, you know, as you did. And so I'm interested in this next segment about how did you get here? You know, how did you get mentally to this space, to the kind of passions that you've talked about, whether it be photography or whether it be, you know, wanting to be a part of this documentary experience, or whether it's about being aware or listening to all sides. You know, all those things are things that, you know, I think it's easy to think that, oh, you just get there because you're a certain age, and that's not true. And you just gave us an example of that. So I'm curious how did you get here from, you know, 2007, you know, how did you get from who you were at that point to this person here?
Well, just, you know, by observing patterns, by listening to people that was ahead of me, by listening to certain narratives and just witnessing racial and social injustice, and just growing up more and into understanding what it comes from and kind of what is the effect of it. Just for example, in 2007, I had my wife at the time, my girlfriend. She was pregnant with my son Aiden, my first son Aiden, and with all the emotions of being a young black teen that's unmarried and working in a different neighborhood, and kind of some of the questions that they'll ask you, where are you from? Are you from here? Are you have a baby? You're too young. What's wrong with your kids? Are they all you all are doing? And some of the things that were said and kind of put I thought around like where it's coming from.
And you mean by everyday people? You're not talking about by employers, just like by people you met when you first moved to Minnesota.
Yeah, people I met. Yeah, everyday people.
Wow.
And just moving to Minnesota and just continue to stay on the ball of listening to social media. Obviously, just being cognizant of when Barack Obama got elected, just hearing on his speech about kind of on Martin Luther King Day, his birthday, and just being aware of the election and just the other side and how vile and disrespectful the climate change. And we're going to make him a one-term president. And I was even catching myself when I was working at Enterprise. Just the climate on. I remember one person I picked up one day. She said that if Barack Obama doesn't get more tougher on Iran at the time when they were having their green movement, but it soon faded away. But she said, if Barack Obama doesn't get tougher on Iran, he's going to be the last black president. And
wow.
Kind of like what? Yeah, and that wasn't the only thing that was said to me about Barack Obama being black and being a president in the same sentence. It was other times, and I didn't know what to do or what to say. It was a conversation of he bailed out the bank to the healthcare, and he's going to damn America. He's going to break America. He's going to put us into debt. I didn't know, but I continued to listen to their narrative. I continued to research. I continued to read. And then I continued to look at the history and the patterns of it, and look at our great leaders. People can say anything about they want about Malcolm X or Stokely Carmichael, but these were intelligent black men. They were intelligent, even Fannie Lou Hamer, just people that were intelligent, that had an educational background, they can argue, they can debate. Who can win this debate, or who can have the greater who has a greater point of view, that point of view that you have to sway. And the more I get involved and engrossed in it, the more I understand. It's people that's in higher places. It's evil people in higher places that's in the Bible. That is not about flesh and blood. It's about the spirit and the principalities and how to break those barriers down. And we have to understand the communication. So
right.
Just putting it all together. Just graduating out of college and just having a family and battle those spirits and thoughts and emotions, but also understanding that it's a higher purpose. I have a cause to take care of my family. Also represent my community. I know that I'm here for something, and just being aware of it, I'm not going to let them intimidate me. I'm not going to let them put me in a box. So I had to continue to keep on my thinking cap.
Yeah, so let me ask a question, because there are people who are going to be listening to this, and shout out to everybody listening. We appreciate you on the Class of Hope and Change. I think one of the things that I'm always struggling with, we have to do so much explaining at times. And there are going to be people who listen to this who are going to be surprised by the number of times you reference the phrase, black male, as you understand your own story, or the number of times you reference something historical, whether that be government, political situation, or various social situations and people who have occurred in the past. And that's a very unique way of thinking about your life. Like, there are a lot of people in this country who are your age, who are different ages, who don't think about themselves first in terms of their ethnicity. They don't think about themselves first in terms of their gender. They don't think about themselves in terms of the things that have happened in the government, and they don't think about themselves in terms of history. And so, and yet here you are, and articulating and giving us a sense of, how you understand your life and how you've thought about what's going on. Help us understand when you say the phrase, as a black male, us and them, and help people understand what is it about how you understand your identity that the phrase black male and historical figures and the government is something that's always present with you.
Wow, it's I guess it's like it's a moniker of being an individual, a human being. You know, I'm not. If you kind of look at the world as it is now, we represent a large portion of fashion, a large portion of entertainment, a large portion of civil rights, a portion of history. But in the power struggle, we're not in that industry, in that fabric, in that infrastructure. Getting into politics, but it's not in a form of we have, we can have a stronger black caucus, but that's a different conversation. But when you look at like all the different types of industries, advances, we don't have that touch, that representation. And when I say black male, I want to say, hey, I'm here. I'm this color. I'm this beautiful rainbow color that God chose me. I don't want to be. I don't want to be ostracized. I don't want to be put in a box. I don't want to be categorized as someone that's not you. I don't want to be, the 1 out of 4 black male or the 1 out of AIDS or that epidemic. I just want to say that I'm different. I'm equal. I'm here to advance the world, to advance my family, to advance life, to sustain life. And I feel sometimes the only way, as hypocritical as I sound, the only way that I can do that is to identify my past and the people that came before me as black males and myself as a black male, to make sure that they're aware that we are making contributions. We are here doing good things. I hate the narrative of, black on black crime, and I hate to see on social media the silly things that sometimes is done, and in our music and stuff like that. So I love when I see other people in different industries, even if it's one, all it takes is just one person to get in. And I say it because another African American male needs to hear me that may not be interested or may not believe it's cool, may not believe that there's a person that that sounds similar to him, that has these very diverse experiences that a lot of other of his peers go through, may not talk like that, but letting him know that, yes, I'm a black man, that I am aware of what's going on, what has happened, and I am continuing to learn because I don't know it all. Right. And there's so much information that I need to touch. So it's okay to talk about this to your friends. It's okay to be aware. It's okay to want to vote, because we have to. The other side's on it. We have to. We have to. It's our future. It's our legacies. People who died, who got whipped, et cetera, got lynched, that died for us. Even we had help from different cultures, but we have to help ourselves. We have to. So that's when I say black man. Black man. I'm proud. I'm gifted. I'm young. So that's where that comes from.
I appreciate that, and I think that's important. I wanted to make sure that people hear that, and one of the things also, Phil, one of the reasons I'm talking to different people for different reasons, and one of the things I want to make sure that the folks who are listening to this program get is a sense of you as in the context of your family. So connect for us. I'm going to connect one of the typical questions that I ask people, but I'm going to ask you in a slightly different way. And the question revolves around, you've touched on a lot of these things already, things that have become important to you and changes in what's become important to you. But talk about that in the context of your family and how you've come to think about family in a different way, from how you thought about family, back in 2007, maybe back when you graduated from high school, versus how you think about family now.
Yeah, I'm a young dad. I'm blessed. to how to know how to somewhat take care of a family. I think I'm doing a pretty good job. But every morning I wake up, I'm reminded that it's not about me. It's not about me being me. It's not about me anymore. It's not about me being a man anymore. It's about me being a dad. It's about me being a husband. It's about me being a Christian. And it's humbling when my girlfriend at the time said that she was pregnant. I put myself in a box. I took myself out of the equation to success, to being successful. As sad as that sounds, I didn't know what to do, and through the eyes of my children now, and through their love, through their endurance, their courage, their strength, and when they say daddy, and their confidence that they know, that they are loved, gave me love and made me remember like this is important, and to the encouragement of the community, hey, you're doing such a good job, reminded me, I had a father who stayed with us, who lectured us, who fought, and still fighting the city for some things that they did to him with racial with Highland practices, and my mother who wrote poetry, and when I was a kid, who people like you who reminded me, kind of with identity and just mentoring, and Jeff and Trevor and my friends who were so tight knit, even though I was the first one that had a kid out of a bunch, they supported me. I had 3 other brothers, thank God, they were there. And just moving to Minnesota out of Chicago and out of the fray of certain people in certain different groups in the family, I was able to find myself and finally finding a church home to mold you and to give you biblical sense, and a husband love the wife and a wife respect your husband, and the children, respect your parents, which are they shall be longer, father, don't provoke your son, and just things of that nature, and just the joy and just the coming together, and my children seeing me sing in church, and there's the understanding family more, and how all comes into play when you have a conversation with certain adults. And I worked in different industries, and I worked in the financial industry as a personal banker for 3 years. So most of my conversations about family, about my children. Yes, most days when I first started, most times when I first started, I was embarrassed. I was, okay, I'm young, I'm 25, 26, I have 2 kids. I already know what some of the thoughts are going to be. Yes, some of the thoughts was valid, verified, was valid. Are you young? You're young. Why do you have so many kids? It didn't make me feel uncomfortable, but the more I talked about it, the more I, kicked off that rust, and I got in front of the conversation. I embraced it, I see the power, yes, I'm a father. Yes, I'm taking care of my kids. Yes, they're beautiful. Yes, I love them. Yes, taking it. Yes, tell yourself, yes, you can make it. Yes, you can do it. That's how I see my family. I see my family. I see my children. Have a wonderful older son. He's of mine. He's 13. He's my stepson through marriage, but he's my son. I can see myself through him. What things that we've been through together. My Aiden, who's 8, Adonis, who's 6, Liera, who's 4. I have a big family, but they're strong with their own personality, and I'm helping them I'm being their lighthouse to lead them. My wife is going back to school. She's a powerful woman, who honestly we both did a 360 ourselves, and how we resemble each other, how we were just so different and diverse in our past, and what we've been through with our parents and in our neighborhood, and what we thought was family, what we experienced and we thought worked for our family, but didn't work. Disciplinary actions, how to talk to one another, communication, what not to say to one another. We were all, but through our trials and tribulations, we're hitting those strides, of happiness and growing together. And we feel like we've been together. Honestly, we have, but we feel like we've been together for years, and just recently, coming on, 2 years, 3 years from now, just being married finally, and being in a household, and having an American dream, and waking up on a beautiful summer morning and opening the door to to take the mail, you know, and seeing kids on the block, you know, that's what I grew up out of. And to give my kids that experience, that's the ultimate joy, you know, to give them what you had. And what Ariel kind of, my wife, she didn't have, but to give her this, you know, life together is beautiful. You know, that's family. And I know how important it is for a man to be in a man's, you know, in a kid's life, you know, boy or girl. And, you know, obviously the mother to be in their children's life, you know, it is powerful. But together, you know, under God, and you have good friends and family around you, that's unbreakable. You know, that's when you have respect. That's when you have certain expectations, you know, that family needs to meet. You know, education is not going to leave this house. That's our priority with my oldest son, you know, who's battling that problem, for lack of words, the problem that's in schools. You know, you if you're athletic, you're handsome, you look good,
right.
You dress nice, you're good enough
right.
to graduate. You know, you don't have to be the A student. Heck, you know, since it's gonna be a family channel, but no, you want to understand math. You know, I struggled in math. I wish some things I know now I could reverse and, you know, give my parents the information and give other people the information so I can be more articulate. You know, it's upsetting, you know, with the new sciences and comprehension that I didn't have and had to get later in my life, you know. So I gotta make sure that he doesn't do it. You know, he doesn't make those stumbles, and we preach to him. But we need other people in the community to talk to him. You know, people like you, Daisy, and that's, you know, kudos to you what you're doing. You know, this war can't be lost now. You know, this is someone has to carry the baton, and
Absolutely.
These are my children that's going to have to carry the baton.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I wanted to make sure that people hear the passion in your voice. One of the reasons Phil and I have gotten along for so many years is Phil is a passionate young man, and you can hear it, and he believes the things that he says, and he lives them, and you can't fake authentic, and the kids see through that. I want to give you, Phil, some time to speak, and you've done this in many ways, and you've given the people a lot. Feel free to rewind this and play it again. You know, Phil's dropped some stuff. You might have to highlight and underline as you go through it. But I want to give you some time, Phil. Listen. The people are getting quality here, free of charge on Class of Hope and Change. I want to give I want to give you some time, Phil, though, to talk about what you see in your city. And obviously, both of us are from Chicago, so Chicago's never far from our spirits. But you know, feel free to talk about the Twin Cities in Minnesota. Feel free to talk about Chicago. Feel free to talk about the country. But you know, I want to give you some time to share what do you see currently as you look out locally and nationally.
What I see is the need for the Black community to have its own representation in store. You know, we need Black businesses. I see similar things when I was a kid in Chicago. You have if someone listening from Chicago who lives on the west side, you may have heard of a store called M&M's. You know, I see M&M's, you know. I see restaurants, fast food restaurants where you can't sit down and eat. You have to order food from a window. I see that up here. But I do see in my area, I don't see drugs, thank God. I don't see gangs of, you know, little children walking up the street doing vandalism or anything like that. I don't see that, thank God. And we're going to fight to keep that out. I see in Minneapolis, obviously crime with drugs and other things and gangs. I hear about it in the nation. But I do see the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. Our president has 2 more years in office, and definitely it is uncomfortable because I'm at the age now where I'm 30. I'm not 21. I'm not 22. Where I have aspirations that I can get a good job, graduating fresh out of college. You know, that was my plan, my goal. I have a degree now. It's going to be like how it was when my parents were, you know, young adults. You know, I'm going to get a good job here. It's not there anymore, especially if you don't have a focused degree. You're not focusing on industry, you know, engineering, science, whatever. So it's very frightening, and I want to make sure that that I'm doing my part and taking care of my family because I know how easy it is for people to move in and, change can't change the landscape of a community. So I just want to, I don't really like what I'm seeing because this narrative with, people threatening police officers and, it was been instances, if my brothers had an experience and they could have easily been Eric Gardner. Police made a mistake and went to the wrong home for a drug bust, and they went in my brother's backyard and beat up my brother, Nathan McGraw, DM McGraw. You can look it up on the internet. And they were, victims of police brutality, really beat up bad. And they had a small court buyout, but it was small, just for lack of representation of lawyers. And it can easily happen. My son, walking to the store with his friends, and it's scary. It's scary. So just communicating with them, how to speak to an officer, how to speak to adults, what language to use, and stuff like that. So it's kind of uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. But I think with more conversations like this, I think we all could. I think we all can be prepared and just change the landscape and have a better tomorrow.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you sharing that. Is there as an exit question, one of the things that I'm asking people is I want to make sure we're trying to do multiple things with the project. One is to highlight obviously everyday people from different parts of the country, different life experiences and paths, and helping people to begin a conversation, around the truth and things that we're all learning as we grow. But the other thing is I want to make sure that people are aware of the everyday good that's taking place. And when we spoke, when I was talking to you about being a part of the project, you mentioned an organization, and I want to make sure that gets included here. If you want to talk about that or anything else that you would like to highlight, the organization that helped you when you were transitioning to Minnesota. Could you talk for a minute about that organization? I believe it was young men or older men who helped out young fathers, I believe it was called. I can't remember the name of the organization.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, just talk for a minute about that, just so people can have. I want every episode to include some organization of everyday people who may or may not be on TV, famous, who are doing good. That the people can get out there and support. So we don't have to. People are making it happen. We don't have to pretend like that the solutions are magically in some other place. They're happening every day. So if you could tell us about that organization.
Oh, sure. When I moved up here in 2008, before Obama got elected, when he was running, he had a choice. I graduated out of college, working part-time, bills needed to be met, families needed to be taken care of. I decided to move here into my brother's basement, and I didn't work for 2 months. It was tough, And right around the corner, I was just met a young man, and he said, I was walking, walking with my children, just a little stroll, get some fresh air. And hey, lazy children, and a small conversation. Gave me his business card to come visit him and just sign up for a class just to meet some new people, some new faces, and some new to Minnesota. And when I did, it was man from all ages that had similar stories. The program is called Young Dads, and it's just equipping young men with literacy. It was equipping them with giving them strengthening them with financial backing. Also giving them legal representation, through situations where they couldn't see their children, so they had to go to court for parenting time. In my case, I was with my significant other, and we needed a place to stay, and I didn't, for 2 months I wasn't working, and we had, we were looking through apartment, but we just couldn't get that output. We couldn't get that blessing, that chance to, to show the landlord that we're good tenants. And I remember filling out one last application, $35 left in my account, and I, took it out to pay for it, and you got a call the next day. Sorry, you didn't get approved. You don't have enough work history, and something we communicated with her that, my wife was working at the time, and I just kind of pleaded with her, like, please, you have to understand my situation. I'm living with my brother. It's kind of a flame that's being lit that I need to kind of we need to get on our feet. We've been there for 2 months now. It's kind of long with, a family of, 5, or your family of 5 at the time.
Right.
Because I had my other son when I graduated, the day after I graduated. And we needed to move out. We were staying in the basement. And, I thought my life was going to be a lot easier with the degree, but it didn't happen. And she gave me a number. And at the person, boom, I said, yeah, great. But you need to pay the first month's deposit with this amount. I'm like, oh, my God, where can I get this money from? Family couldn't help. They were already helping. And, at that time, people were expecting us not to make it and to move back to Chicago. So that was more motivation for me to make things happen, pray and plan. And just kind of giving my testimony to the men's group. I let them know that I'm in a situation. And that's, if they know of any services that can help, just let me know. And a lot of people say, go to the state and stuff like that. They can help. But the state kind of was already helping medically with food. And that was another humbling experience. And the guy called me and said, you know what? Something about you I like, something I like about you. I know you haven't been along here enough to be a part of, our group to receive benefits, but I'm going to help you because I feel that, with your family, I feel like, you need this and this is going to catapult you to another level. And he wrote me a check. The down deposit was $600 or whatever. Wow. And, with that blessing,
and this person he was not related to you? He was not a government official? He was
not a government, not a government official. His name was Alexander. I forgot his whole name, but his name was Alexander. Yep. And just him helping me and, seeing other people get help. And I was able to move in the apartment. And if no one has ever been in a situation where you had no place to stay or it felt like you had no place to stay, even if you were staying somewhere, you didn't have a job, and to receive help like that, that's one of those serious ways you feel like you're Will Smith and pursuing happiness. You're crying, you're excited. And that was that point of when I drove to Chicago, got my U-Haul, moved all my stuff in, and same day drove back 6 hours or 7 hours. I made it from Chicago to Minnesota driving nonstop, and I'm moving my stuff in. Glory be to God. To hand later the check and to move in and sign a contract, and next day get a job. Get the job the week before at Office Max. That's just people that's helping you, and and that's what you mean. You have to repay. You have to be asset to the community, and it was just an awesome experience. And the group of young dads, they're still around. With different government cuts, they, agency like that, they couldn't do some of the same things they used to do. But glory to God that they did help out me and other individuals too, and they're still around. Preparing, helping fathers be more prevalent in our children's lives. So
outstanding. Thank you for sharing that. So people, if you have a young dads in your city, seek them out, support their work. If you don't have one, feel free to open up that Google search and get to work and figure out how you can be a part of that. And you never know, that's a beautiful thing. You never know, and so we want to definitely give voice to that. Phil, thank you. You've given the people a lot. We might just have to. We didn't even, for those of you listening, we didn't even touch half of it. Phil could do his own 3 or 4 episodes, and we hope to hear from him with his documentary. Phil, do you have a name for this documentary? Actually, don't put the name out yet. Don't put the name out till you trademark it. So we'll just say it's Untitled. I want to protect his copyright. We're going to call it Untitled. We will expect to hear from Phil in the coming years, and very excited about what this young man's going to produce. Phil, thank you for joining us. You've given us a lot, and we look forward to seeing where life takes you.
Well, Daisy, I can't wait to hear, the complete series of interviews, and just that, again, hats off to you. Just thank you for doing what you're doing. We need it, and it's just thank you for representing and just being in New York. You're, anyone who knows this man knows he's a man of integrity, 100%, and he's a man of God, and he's a really good person, and I kind of envy you because I do miss him.
We'll get out there. We'll definitely. I can't mess with Minnesota in the cold, but I'll find my way there when you guys got green grass and warm weather. We'll figure it out.
All right, brother.
I want to thank you for listening today. Thank you for joining us. We're going to have new conversations posted up every week on our website, ClassofHC.com. Feel free to please follow us on Twitter, ClassofHC, Instagram, ClassofHC, and we have new and good stuff coming for you all year. Be well and be safe, family.